This podcast is an invitation to feel and experience the souls of famous old Hollywood homes and to have an in-depth journey to the areas where they're located through interviews with longtime residents. Either you're a fan of old Hollywood in Los Angeles, planning to have a vacation, or, an even bigger step, considering a certain area for your future home. This is your opportunity to receive valuable information and insightful advice you won't find anywhere else.
Hello, and welcome to my podcast. Are you in the mood for California? Today we'll explore and feel Sherman Oaks, followed by an interview with the remarkable Anthony Mohr.
It's a very good suburb of Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. And at one point, there was a journalist who termed the San Fernando Valley America's suburb. Mm-hmm. That term was given to it back in the post-war 50s when the valley was, really kind of fairly new, Eisenhower, lily white, if you will. The valley in many ways has changed. It's become more gritty. But Sherman Oaks so far is still okay. It's still relatively safe, although we obviously have spikes of crime all over the Southland now, but it's still, life is fairly easy here.
Right.
So, it works for me, and it's close to the main area of Los Angeles, close to the beach, close to good shopping, although I don't like to shop that much. So I think it's fine.
Masha Korpacheva is a California-based realtor and a member of the National Association of Realtors in Los Angeles. She's an advocate for selling and buying homes with soul and practicing mindfulness in real estate. With master's degrees in spiritual psychology and linguistics, Masha brings all of her skills to work with her clients. An intuit and empath, she has touched many lives with her outstanding ability to see beyond the visible and helping to come to better understanding of issues and their resolutions. An adventurous world traveler, from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro in Tanzania to exploring the Galapagos Islands, Masha has a particular passion for the City of Angels. Having landed in this paradise and adopted it as her home, she's been sharing old Hollywood stories since 2007. In the mood for California, feel the soul of old Hollywood.
And now, are you ready to experience Sherman Oaks? In the heart of the San Fernando Valley, there exists a picturesque retreat named Sherman Oaks, a place that seamlessly blends the elegance of bygone Los Angeles with the conveniences of the modern world. This enchanting neighborhood, adorned with classic architecture reminiscent of a time long past, carries the timeless legacy of General Moses Hazeltine Sherman, a visionary real estate magnate. Born in Vermont in 1853, General Sherman, a man of grand vision, acquired a vast parcel of land from the Los Angeles Suburban Homes Company. At the intersection of Ventura Boulevard and Sepulveda Boulevard, he erected a grand house, but his heart found solace in the bustling downtown life at the Westminster Hotel. Prior to his venture into Sherman Oaks, he had left his mark in Phoenix, Arizona, constructing the Phoenix Street Railway. Eventually, he ventured westward to Los Angeles in 1910, where he purchased extensive land, crafting streetcar lines that crisscrossed both the basin and the valley. A little town, Sherman, emerged just west of Hollywood, a junction of General Sherman's streetcar lines, now known as West Hollywood. Yet, the Valley City retained the name of its visionary founder, Sherman Oaks. In the year 1927, General Sherman carefully selected 1,000 acres to shape the future of the city. Lavender-coated streets beneath towering jacaranda trees and the winding drive along Valley Vista Boulevard turned Sherman Oaks into a picture-perfect haven. This neighborhood, with its diverse landscapes ranging from the charming Melantine ranch homes of Hidden Woods to the sprawling properties in Chandler Estates, offered something for every Angelino. The topography of Sherman Oaks, ascending toward Beverly Hills, unveiled flat lots, sensational view properties, and a living canvas for Hollywood's elite. The proximity to major studios and convenient commuter canyons made it a natural choice for professionals across Los Angeles, and its excellent preparatory schools, including the Buckley School and Notre Dame High School, made it an ideal haven for families. Sherman Oaks, in recent years, evolved into a culinary hotspot, drawing famed chefs to its Ventura Boulevard eateries. The Sherman Oaks Fashion Square, a beacon of luxury, has been a favored shopping destination since its inauguration in 1962. Martha Coolidge's Valley Girl introduced the world to the Sherman Oaks Galleria in 1983, now fully renovated and housing a theater, gym, spa, and diverse restaurants. Up the road, Sherman Oaks Castle Park has stood as the Valley's cherished mini-golf and arcade since 1975. In the midst of all this, there is never a dull day in the gorgeous city of Sherman Oaks, where history and modernity dance hand in hand. Sherman Oaks, a peaceful neighborhood at the center of San Fernando Valley, offers residents the charm of the past and the comfort of the present, creating a living story that continues to unfold with each passing day. And here we are. Welcome to Sherman Oaks. I'm beyond excited to have Anthony Mohr with me today. Anthony J. Mohr served for 26 years as a judge on the Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, and also sat as a judge pro tem on the California Court of Appeal. In January 2021, he became a fellow at the Advanced Leadership Initiative at Harvard University and is now a senior editor of the Harvard ALI Social Impact Review. His stories and essays have received 6 Pushcart Prize nominations. Please check out Anthony's website, www.anthonyjmohr.com, and his book, Every Other Weekend, can be found on Amazon. Anthony will share with us the story of his life and what it feels like to live in Sherman Oaks. Hello, Tony.
Hi, Maria. Good to be here. Thank you for having me on your program.
Oh my God. I'm so excited to have you here on my podcast. And I have been really looking forward to our conversation. I bet it will be a very interesting one.
I hope so.
Well, to begin with, could you please describe a little bit the atmosphere and vibe of Sherman Oaks, where you currently reside? And how does it actually feel living in this area? And is it conducive to your lifestyle? Do you enjoy living there?
The answer is yes to all of that. It's a very good suburb of Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley. And at one point, there was a journalist who termed the San Fernando Valley America's suburb.
Mhm.
That term was given to it back in the post-war 50s when the valley was, really kind of fairly new, Eisenhower, lily white, if you will. The valley in many ways has changed. It's become more gritty. But Sherman Oaks so far is still okay. It's still relatively safe, although we obviously have spikes of crime all over the Southland now. But it's still, life is fairly easy here.
Right.
So, it works for me. And it's close to the main area of Los Angeles, close to the beach, close to good shopping, although I don't like to shop that much. So I think it's fine. And I grew up here as a child. I was here until the 5th grade. And Sherman Oaks then was full of brushland, vacant lots. you could drive for 2 minutes and be up in the hills away from everybody. Now you have to drive for 10 minutes to get up to the hills.
Right, right. Yeah, that's very interesting that it felt very kind of like rural and suburban back then, and now it does feel like a real city.
It does. I mean, Ventura Boulevard does remind you of a city because it is, and it's suburban. Back then, it was rural suburban.
Right, that's very true. And there is still quite a bit of greenery in Sherman Oaks.
There is, and they've made an effort to put greenery along Ventura Boulevard, especially in our neighboring suburb, which is Studio City, and I live
Right.
there too. And they put greenery in the median of Ventura Boulevard, and they've tried to kind of spruce it up and make it more picturesque, if you will.
Right, right. Wow, you have been growing up all over the city.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I'm specifically interested also in your time growing up in Beverly Hills during the 50s and 60s, which must have been filled with the glamorous aura. What was it actually like? And maybe you can share some memorable experiences or events from your childhood that have left some lasting impact on your life.
Well, Beverly Hills back then, believe it or not, was a small town. It was surrounded by Los Angeles, but the vibe was a small town that did take itself very seriously.
Mhm.
But in terms of the celebrities, they were and acted like just plain folks. I mean, there were a couple who kind of acted larger than life or tried to draw attention to themselves. Buddy Hackett being one. He would sometimes drive down the street and act as though he were traveling in a parade. A lot of them just went and did their shopping. If I remember right, Doris Day would just wander into town and shop, and they'd hand out candy on Halloween. My real exposure to them came through their children. And frankly, I wasn't even aware of who their parents were.
Mhm.
Like Joey Bishop's kid, Larry Bishop. I knew who he was long before I realized Joey Bishop was his father. Ditto for Lee J. Cobb's daughter, Julie. I didn't know her well in high school. But even when she became the basketball queen, I think it was, I didn't realize that her father was a very famous actor.
Mhm.
This wasn't blasted around the school. They treated us equal and we treated them equally. And I remember Danny Kaye's daughter, who was a year ahead of me, ran for vice president of the student body and lost to
Mhm.
a person whose father was not at all in the entertainment industry. You didn't have paparazzi. You didn't have people stalking the campus, stalking the kids, or anything like that. The memorable experiences. Well, I can remember a couple involving celebrities. I remember one time some buddies and I were stopped at a light on Santa Monica Boulevard, and somebody said, "Look at the car next to us." It was Richard Chamberlain, who starred in a series called Dr. Kildare.
Mhm.
And the driver, a guy with a great sense of humor who did become a doctor later, leaned out the window and he yelled, "We watch Ben Casey," which was another doctor show. We all laughed and we peeled out. Another friend of mine kept running and cutting off John Wayne at this one particular intersection. And finally, John Wayne flipped him off, like on the third or fourth morning that this happened. So, you had incidents like that.
Right.
Other things, there were parties for the children of the stars. Uncle Bernie's had one that I went to when I was a kid. Pacific Ocean Park, which was a great amusement park. So sad it closed down. But they had a party for the children of the stars when I was a child. And my dad took me to that one. But discretion was the order of the day. I mean, the bad stuff wasn't publicized. You didn't hear about it. People didn't talk about it. People didn't brag about their parents. If you bragged about your parents, you'd quickly be reminded that there's always a faster gun. Somebody had a more famous parent.
Mhm.
Somebody had a wealthier parent. So it just, there was a certain level of success the families had. And beyond that, it made no difference. And we just were kids.
Mhm. Wow. So it does sound that you had a normal childhood with discretion, with equality, and everybody treating each other like everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure you can talk to people who would have a different story. There's no question. Beverly Hills High at the time had about 1,700 students in it. I'm sure that plenty of them will tell you I'm wrong or that they had a different arc, different narrative, whatever it is.
Right, right. We'll focus on your story.
Let me just say one other thing in terms of memorable experiences. The teachers at Beverly Hills were fantastic.
Mm.
I mean, we had our bad ones, no question about it. We had a couple who were really not qualified to teach. But by and large, they were very well qualified. The school could pay them very well, and they got the best. They had a lot of Phi Beta Kappas. They had a lot of people with advanced degrees. And a number of them I still remember extremely well. One English teacher I had and I are still in touch. we email each other periodically. Now it's moved to Florida. And there was one unit which our history teacher taught us called Culture Vulture. And it was 2 weeks a semester completely devoted to art, music, and literature for the periods we were studying.
Wow.
And people remember it with fondness because it was like learning the multiplication tables of art or literature or music. You weren't sitting there talking about the relevance of Renoir. You were trying to memorize his art style or memorize the music that Franz Liszt or Richard Wagner wrote.
Yes, yes. Well, teachers actually do leave a long-lasting impact on the lives of children. And as far as I know, Beverly Hills is still very famous for its very good schools.
It is. I don't think they're as good as they used to be. But maybe because when I was there, they were easily in the top 1%. And the latest statistic I saw said something like the school was number 1,000. So it's dipped, but it's still, a decent place to go to school.
Right. I agree with you. So you were living in a time when divorce and blended families were not as common as today. Maybe you can share some insights in the dynamics of your family and how you navigated the complexities of having actually a famous actor father and at the same time a stepfather who was a pioneer in the credit card industry.
Well, I didn't revel in it at all. Maybe it was like the fish who's not aware that the fish is swimming in water. I mean, I knew my father was an actor. I knew he was well known. We'd always walk into a restaurant and get the best table, if you will. And I remember people asking for his autograph. And I knew Stan, my stepfather, was very influential in the credit card area. And he was bringing he and the vice president of Bank of America teamed up and basically started the Bank America card. Stan made the machines that embossed them and imprinted them. And Joe Williams, of course, got the Bank of America to back the Bank America card, which is now Visa. So, Stan was a pioneer. But at the time, I was, I guess, too young to really appreciate it. I mean, I knew the company was doing well. They had gone public. I saw lots of business people coming in and out of the house at dinner. There were times I was down there. Stan actually wanted his kids to work in the business. His goal, his dream was to have all of his 2 kids and me in the family business. So we saw it, but I was a little young to appreciate what was going on or really make a contribution. My older stepbrother, 5 years older, was old enough to do things and, be influential. How do you blend that? Divorce was rare. I was never teased about it. I was never criticized about it. It was just never talked about. I don't remember talking about it with any of my friends, anybody I went out with, or anybody like that, or the teachers. It was just something I put up with, I guess, silently. It wasn't pleasant, I'll tell you. I mean, you feel lonely, you feel abandoned. There's nobody to share it with, at least that I knew of. There were kids I know now who did come from divorced homes, a few, but we really didn't share that. There was one guy, one of the earliest I met when I got to Beverly Hills, and his parents were divorced. And he had real attitude and adjustment problems. He was not somebody I really wanted to confide in. He was clever. He was whip smart. He had a lot of talent, but he was always getting into trouble. He couldn't edit his thoughts. He was not that popular. He was just a difficult kid.
Right. And you were probably mostly focusing on studying and were trying to live through the sadness and the pain and feeling abandoned, like in your own heart. So you never shared it and never burst out and just tried to pour it onto someone.
I think you're right. I mean, in the 4th grade, which was, when the divorce happened in the 4th grade. And believe it or not, I still have report cards from there, and I can compare them to the 3rd grade. And 3rd grade, I was getting A's, and the LA schools would grade your, quote, deportment and citizenship on lots of axes. And I always got outstanding. Well, in the 4th grade, that wasn't the case. I was getting barely satisfactory, getting warned that it would be unsatisfactory if I didn't straighten up.
Right. Well, no wonder that you actually decided to write a book every other weekend, coming of age with 2 different dads. And as far as I know, you came out as a finalist at the Independent Author Network Book of the Year Award. Congratulations to you on that.
Well, thank you. That happened yesterday. I've gotten a couple of other awards, too, if I can toot my horn. I got first place in nonfiction in the Firebird Awards and a gold medal from Literary Titan, and 3rd place in memoir from the the Book Fest Awards. So, I'm happy about that. At least some people like it.
Right, right. But the point is that later in your life, you actually did decide to write about the processes that you went through as a child. And in your book specifically, you discuss your decision not to pursue a career in entertainment like your father or business like your stepfather, but instead opting for a law career. What do you think kind of factors influenced this choice, and how did your upbringing actually contribute to your decision?
Well, excuse me, as far as acting goes, I was a terrible actor. When I was 7 years old, my dad had a series and I asked to be in it. So they had me walk through one scene and that worked out. I was just at a drinking fountain, drinking water in the background, and I couldn't mess that up too badly. So then they gave me a speaking role, and that one I totally messed up. I think they had to take like 15 or 16 or even 17 takes to get it right. I came the second day not wearing the clothes I had worn the first day, so they had to reshoot scenes for continuity. I found it boring to go from take to take to take, and I walked out of there thinking I never want to do this again. So that kind of took care of acting. I tried a little bit in school plays, but I wasn't that good. I really did. I played Bob Cratchit in A Christmas Carol in I think it was the 7th grade or 8th grade. And my dad had to walk me through every line, and literally give me the inflections to do it. I had so much trouble. I was always good with improv. In fact, I joined an improv theater for about a year and a half before I became a judge. I love improv, but in terms of being an actor, I just knew it wasn't for me. And as far as business goes, ironically, when I was a little child, you're talking 5, 6, 7, a friend of mine down the street and I used to play office, and it seemed glamorous in its own way. Once, I got involved with Stan's company and saw what was going on, I didn't care for it. I thought the people were kind of boring. The guys were all kind of walking around in white shirts, ties, and suits, and they didn't seem to have much of a personality. And the workday seemed to be kind of dull, if you will. I just didn't relate to it at all. So then it became a question of high school and debate and working on the paper, and everybody said, well, you write well and speak well, you should be a lawyer. I kind of said, what do lawyers do? Ultimately, I kind of got a feel for it. But even in college, I defaulted into law school. I almost went to journalism school.
Interesting. What was it in the law career that attracted you the most?
Being in court, being a litigator, the idea of arguing to a jury and, examining a witness, all of that I enjoyed.
Well, that does require some acting skills as well.
It does, I guess. It does. I must tell you, being a judge has been much more fun and much more rewarding.
Oh, interesting. So what would you say was the most interesting and rewarding experience that you had while being a judge?
Well, I have to be careful because we're not allowed to comment on cases that are pending.
Of course.
Yes. I can't sit here and say, oh, this was a wonderful case and it's still going on. But I'd say one of the most rewarding cases I had was really some of the misdemeanors where somebody is like you or me, but they made a mistake. They didn't go out there and kill someone or rob the store and shoot people. They made a mistake. And if you can kind of get them on the track, get them into probation, put them into a program and try to turn their lives around, that is rewarding. I did have one case which was a complete Perry Mason moment. And let me tell you, there are very few Perry Mason moments in real life. Very few. You don't break down the witness and get them to admit that they killed the guy. That doesn't happen. But I did have one trial. It was a medical malpractice suit, and one of the defendants was a nutritionist, and she claimed she had a PhD. The plaintiff's attorney was, insisting she didn't, and he proved it. He actually got the registrar of the school where she claimed she got her degree and wrote her thesis. And the registrar said, the courses she's talking about are undergraduate courses and we don't offer a PhD. It was an absolute Perry Mason moment.
Wow. Very interesting. Wow.
And you're up there in your black robe watching this drama unfold in front of you, thinking, wow, this is a real courtroom scene. And I'm the one watching it unfold from the highest point in the room.
Very true. Very true. Like being the ultimate observer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I really liked the way you said that giving another opportunity, giving another chance to a person who made a mistake so that, they can get on the right track and actually correct this mistake and be a better person in the future. And that this was a very rewarding experience for you. You know what? In a way, it sounds to me that this is something that somehow came from your childhood. Maybe you saw, some mistakes that your father might have made, and knowing deep in your heart that everybody deserves a second chance. Everybody deserves to make a better choice in the future. And this is something that people actually blame themselves for the most. People do not forgive themselves. And someone telling them, hey, you can be better next time. You can do better. And it's fine that you made a mistake in the past, but just don't make it in the future. This is one of the most beautiful spiritual experience a human being can have.
Yeah, indeed. I can't say that I find a through line directly from being a child and watching the parents into being a judge, but maybe on some subconscious level, it's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it seemed that's what you subconsciously might have brought out in your practice as a judge. That's the feeling I got.
Right.
So my next question to you, Tony, is that writing about your father and stepfather must have been a very reflective process. And how did delving into their stories and your memories help you understand them differently than you did as a teenager? And were there any surprises or revelations during this introspective journey?
I don't want to say there were any surprises. I remembered life with them pretty well. And obviously, I talked to my step siblings about them, and I got very consistent feedback from them. But, as you write about them and as you try to think about your reactions, obviously you begin to become more aware of their faults. And they weren't glaring. They were two good men who tried to do their best despite having a real grocery list of faults.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what came to the fore as I was writing.
Mm-hmm.
I knew I didn't set out to savage either one as I wrote the book. I wanted to be as understanding as I could be. But there were places where I thought I'm going to be pretty darn critical. And I wasn't, because the more I thought about it and the more I kind of put things together, the more I said, well, wait a minute, he's got a fault and there's this real drawback in his character. But despite that, he tried.
Right. Yes. So you came to a certain acceptance, both of your father and your stepfather.
Yeah. The other thing I must tell you is, and this actually had held me back from writing the book for a long time until I got all sorts of encouragement later on in life. But I'm not writing a book. I didn't write a book about horrible people. When you read Liars Club by Mary Carr, you've got parents who are, sexually abusing a child. When you read The Glass Castle by Jeanette Wall, you've got some really, seriously, parents with serious psychological issues. She sees her mother dumpster diving on the street.
Yes.
Homeless, and she doesn't want to even talk to the mother. She just goes on, if you will, keeps driving on, or has her driver keep going on. I didn't have any of that. My parents were not, child abusers. They were not criminals, or, they were not out there cheating the world or beating me up every night and, pressing lit cigarettes into the palms of my hands. And if you read a lot of memoirs, that's what you get. If you read The Tender Bar by J.R. Moringer, you've got a father who never shows up. He was a radio personality, which called to me as I started to read the book. But the guy would say, we're going to go to the game together and never show up.
Mm-hmm.
With my father, if he said, we're going to spend the day together, he showed up. If Stan said, we're going to go out sailing, we did.
Right. Beautiful. So what do you think was the most wonderful experience that you received from writing the book?
I think putting things in perspective. And I'll call it free therapy, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
be sitting on a couch. So I think that was really kind of the most rewarding. Getting it together, trying to see things in context.
Mm-hmm. Kind of like free-form writing, that is a very popular technique to actually put everything that is in your heart onto the paper, and that helps you to have certain revelations and let go and accept of certain things that you need to accept within your heart, because at the end of the day, you only have to live with yourself.
Right. I guess if I were to rewrite the book, or maybe I should have written a final chapter, something like advice to people. And, the top advice would be, if you're going to go into a divorce, get the kid into therapy.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 9 years old, if you went to a psychologist, you were considered crazy.
Right.
Even in high school, I mean, there was one boy I knew, and he had his issues. I mean, he was gay, and we kind of all suspected it, even though we didn't understand homosexuality. We suspected that he liked guys, but he was extremely brilliant,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely brilliant. He became a National Merit Scholar and went to Harvard. Unfortunately, he died of AIDS. But I remember him telling me one day, I have an appointment with my psychologist. And I thought, oh my God, he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, he and his parents were much more progressive than the rest of us.
Right. Very true. So besides going into therapy, so what advice would you also give to others who maybe, find themselves growing up in the shadow of famous parents or navigating the complexities of blended families?
Well, in terms of blended families, if you're the parent, don't criticize your ex-spouse to the child.
Mm-hmm.
Just don't do that. Let the kid figure things out for himself. As far as a child in the blended family, don't try to decide one over the other, unless it's obviously clear. I mean, if you've got one parent who is truly abusive and the other who's not, then the choice is easy. But if you've got two parents who are, trying their best and they've got faults, but by and large, things are, they're okay. Don't try to make a decision. Just kind of go with your flow to the best you can.
Mm-hmm.
You're literally going to have to live in two different cultures.
Mm-hmm.
It could be like spending a week or a month in the United States and the next month in Finland or something like that, or even something even farther away. A month in the United States, the next month in Japan.
Right.
You're going to have to do it. At the end of the day, it will benefit you. You won't realize that, but it will benefit you. Certainly, if you become a judge, it'll benefit you because you learn to see two different points of view, and understand different value systems.
Yes, so true. Well, looks like you have really benefited from growing up in blended families, and that your world outlook and your awareness of yourself and your awareness of others has really, helped you to build this incredible life for yourself and to, at some point, to choose a certain profession. And that was only due to the fact that you were growing up in a blended family.
You may be right. I mean, at the time, I didn't think about it that way. And I never, becoming a lawyer, I never thought, wow, I want to be a judge because I'm very qualified because I came from a blended family. I never once had that thought. But looking back on it, yes, it was a benefit. Would I, if I could go back and keep my parents together, would I choose that? Probably so, because it's very difficult to live through a divorce.
Yeah, but when you cannot change things and when you accept them as they are and maybe reframe them in a way that you actually feel better about them, This is where the power is.
Yeah, I guess. But if somebody said, look, you can turn back the clock. Your parents are going to stay together and they'll be happily married, but you will never become a judge. Will you make that trade? The chances are I would. Even though I really love being a judge. It's the high point of my life, but I'd still probably make that trade.
Right. Yeah, I understand. Yeah, that totally makes sense. Well, Tony, thank you so much for this incredible and warm conversation and sharing your heart and talking about your life in Los Angeles in all these different areas and about growing up in a blended family when it was so unconventional to be actually a child of divorce. And I really, really appreciate you taking the time and telling us about your little secrets.
Well, I appreciate you having me on, and I want to thank you again for the privilege and the opportunity.
Thank you, Tony. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Thank you very much for tuning in to feel and experience Sherman Oaks and the conversation with my special guest, Anthony Mohr. If you enjoy my podcast, In the Mood for California, please sign up for future episodes at your preferred platform and please leave your feedback. I really appreciate your time and support. You can follow me on Instagram at In the Mood for California and check out my website www.inthemoodforcalifornia.com. I'm a realtor with Beverly & Company Luxury Properties, and my license number is 01978 714. Selling and buying homes with soul is not just my real estate strategy. It is an intuitive and holistic approach that embraces your values, aspirations, and conscious intentions. If you want to discover the power of mindfulness in your real estate journey with my compassionate guidance, I'm here for you. Next time, we're venturing out to magical woodland hills. Get ready for a dose of exciting history. Looking forward to seeing you there.
In the mood for California, feel the soul of Old Hollywood.